Hello, how the tech are you? This is our weekly tech show on Echoplex Media. We talk about science and tech news and any other science and tech stuff we feel like talking about. And we sometimes even get it out on time and post it to YouTube, but not last week. Wah, wah. I'm historian Matt, and I have general tech and science news, but today I got a couple stories that follow up on some other topics I've talked about in the past. Well, sort of. So my first one is California Outlaws common red food dye. And I'll go into that. So I've talked about some, colors and art stuff in the past. So I feel like this is under the same topic. But my second story is about Google to shield AI users from copyright claims. And that has a lot to do with the generative AI that we've been talking about in the past. So you in the tinfoil hat, what do you got?
So Ubuntu 23.10 was released this past week. I'm going to talk a little bit about that. And Bandcamp laid off about half their employees. So I'm going to talk about that as well. And I'm pretty sure, Dave, I'm the host of this show. Wait, no, I'm the producer of this show and all the other shows on Echoplex Media. And I am in Narnia today.
You're one of the hosts.
It's expert podcasting.
Yeah. So, okay, my first topic is California outlaws the common red food dye. So it's basically last weekend, California banned specific red dye. It's called FDNC red number 3 as a dye. I'm not entirely sure how that is created, but it's a synthetic dye that's been used for a long time. It's used in thousands of food products now. Most of the synthetic, there's been a lot of controversy over synthetic food dyes in the past, or dyes in general, and being used in food. This particular one has been considered safe by the FDA, but there has been a lot of research in the past, particularly in rodents, in mice and rats, and giving them high doses of this particular red dye has shown that there's like a small but significant possibility of them developing cancer. And so they think that in humans, there's a small but significant chance that you could could develop cancer, although like nothing's been linked yet, and it's unlikely to ever be linked. But basically, the animal studies are basically the risk was something like 1 in 100,000 chance of the rodents getting cancer, and that's with 3% of their diet being pure red dye or something like that. I don't remember the exact amount, but it was a pretty high percentage of their diet being this red dye. So basically, California over the weekend has decided to ban it based on this possibility of generating cancer. California is very strict about these things. They're very famous for either bans or notices and stuff in California for things that could have a very, very small probability of causing cancer. And there's a lot of complaints about that. But what do you think, Dave?
I mean, as goes California, goes the rest of the country. Approximately 1 in 10 people in this country live in California. So it's, it's not a joke. Like, California sets the nation's regulations for automobiles, essentially, for example.
Right.
And, in this case, if this is banned in California, I have a feeling that like the vast majority of food producers are just going to stop using it.
Yeah. And there are alternatives that are considered safe. I know that it's not in this article, but somewhere else I was reading about the same ban, and they're talking about it was basically cochineal. I don't remember it's probably red dye number 1 or something like that. But it's basically a red dye it's all natural. It's generated from basically crushing up these particular type of bugs that then generate this very bright red dye. It looks a little different from the synthetic red dyes, but it's still a nice bright red. And we've been using that for like thousands of years in various forms. and it's just a lot more expensive, and it has to be done in a sort of a labor intensive way. So that might change some of it. You probably will notice differences in your foods. It's not going to be quite those same bright red anymore.
Don't tell conspiracy theorists that we've been eating bug dye for thousands of years, because they...
So I have a question for you. Have you ever heard of the term bug juice?
Bug juice?
Yeah. I think it's sort of more of a Southern thing.
No.
It's kind of like... I remember hearing it when I was young, but it wasn't that common, but definitely was around here, where it's basically any like drink that was bright red was called bug juice. I obviously haven't heard of that. I don't know if any other Southern, I don't know if there's any other Southerners who watch this show or listen to it on the podcast, but maybe they can back me up on this. But, for a long time, I didn't know where that came from, but apparently there's at least a theory that it comes from the cochineal, basically red dye, because it's coming from crushed up bugs.
Yeah, somebody found out that the most common red dye was made from bugs, and they just started calling anything red
back in the day.
Juice,
Yeah,
and then it's ideas spread.
Yeah.
Huh.
So
no, I never heard about that. I thought it was going to be something I don't know, tasty and full of bugs.
Well, it's tasty because it's usually like, it was like Kool-Aid or something, right?
Yeah, Kool-Aid is pretty tasty, and apparently the red one was at one point full of bugs.
Yeah. I don't know if Kool-Aid ever was anything but the synthetic red dye, but definitely used to call that.
Do you know, are there other synthetic red dyes out there that can also be used?
There are other synthetic red dyes. I don't know the differences between them, because I know there was another one that was mentioned was red dye number 40. They have great names, right? But I think the red dye number 40 was another one they were concerned about being a carcinogen. And from what I know, like a lot of these synthetic colors or synthetic dyes are generated from basically oil. They're kind of the byproducts of the oil and gas industry. And they just go through certain, color chemistry that was invented back in the day to make these different dyes. So all of them are around the same stuff because it's a byproduct. It's basically extra trash coming from the oil and gas industry. It's super cheap to use, and it's been widely thought to be safe, and we've been using it for decades, if not 100 years now. I don't know how long.
Yeah, I wonder if we're just dealing with a case of like the naturalistic fallacy here, where the assumption, like where a synthetic dye maybe would have a higher hill to climb for the average person to believe that it's safe.
Yeah, I think so, but also like it's kind of like on the borderline, because there is a little bit of scientific evidence that it is a possible carcinogen, but the probability is very low. So it's who knows?
Yeah, but it reminds me of that case where there was and I want to say it was Roundup, but I don't know if they were feeding rats GMOs, and the rats were getting tumors. But but the reason, first of all, the rats that they were using were particularly prone to tumors, and then they were like force feeding these rats like more food than they should have eaten anyway, and it's like so it's like, well, that's not really really the evidence of anything, except that if you force feed rats a bunch of food, they get tumors. So I'm just wondering if this is like one of those cases, because you said if 3% of their diet was this dye, that's just like, I can't even imagine.
Yeah, that's way more than we would have. Any normal person, unless they're constantly drinking Kool-Aid. I don't know. No,
I don't even think there's no way that this dye would be,
you'd be red yourself, right?
Far under like 1% of the material in the Kool-Aid would be this dye. That's like why. That's the point of a strong dye, is that you don't have to use very little of it to turn something red, for example.
Yeah.
Well, that's weird. We'll keep an eye on it, but I think those dyes are gone in the U.S. because if if it's banned where 1 in 10 Americans live, the big companies certainly are going to stop using it.
Yep. Yeah. Keep an eye on it. So moving on to my next topic, going back to AI stuff and generative AI, but the article is Google to shield AI users from copyright claims. And we've talked about a lot about copyright and AI and particularly generative AI. But basically on Thursday, Google announced that it would defend users of its generative AI systems on Google Cloud and Workspace. I'm not entirely sure what Workspace is, but I'm sure it's something that probably something I even use. I don't know exactly what it is. Anyways, Google wasn't the only one to do it in the past. Microsoft and Adobe has also made similar commitments, but specifically for Google, Google will defend against a range of claims. So it's not exclusively copyright, but it definitely includes copyright claims. And surprisingly, this announcement does not include Bard, which is Google's version of ChatGPT. And that's all I got here, but it's a short thing. Google will defend AI users. What do you think, Dave?
This is just more of big tech trying to step on people who create content for a living, I think.
Yeah.
And most small creators don't have the money to go after like somebody for using AI generated content that reminds them or seems to be based on their content, but this just emboldens those who would do that because they think that Google might have their back. I wonder, what does it mean when it says in Google Cloud and Google Workspaces? Does it mean that it's like for customers who are paying for Google Cloud and Google Workspace?
I assume so. I don't know if you've had access to this, but I have Google Docs, and I pay for whatever the Docs is with the extra, hard drive space there, which I find useful. But they gave me access to using Bard in any of the Google Docs. So if I bring up just a regular like text document, it will start off by saying like, what do you want to write? I'll help you start, I'll bring up a template or help you start writing it. And I've used it a couple times and it wasn't particularly useful, but it was interesting to see. And I'm wondering if that's what they're talking about, plus some other stuff or what.
Yeah, I've seen that too. My main account that I use for like Google Docs, it's just my personal account. I don't have like workspaces, but for Echoplex Media, we have like the domain email and stuff all through Google, and that's a workspaces account. Yeah. And every once in a while, because Google is infinitely wise, it will force me to, every time I go to Google Docs, it'll be like the main Echoplex Media email, even though that's not what I want. And so like, I'll be like, oh, well, whatever, I'll start the doc here and share it with myself. And I've seen that a couple times, and I just ignored it because I was like, create document, share with Dave. And then I like just left. So I don't know what it does, but I don't like that they're doing this. I feel like first of all, it implies that the copyright infringement is being done by the user and not by the owner of the AI system that actually infringed the copyright, which is, I could see why maybe they would want to imply that.
Yeah.
That it would be me or you that would be the one infringing the copyright if we used something that looked like, even by accident, like you or I don't think either of us would, intentionally use AI to kind of ape somebody else's style or whatever. But, it implies that that's our fault. And I think that, no, it's the fault of the person who had the AI crawl all this stuff without permission. And so it's sort of, it's odd. It's odd. Yeah, I don't like it. I feel like this is going to be, yet another thing that just kind of steps on independent creators, and which is interesting because My last story this week is also a thing where I feel like independent creators are going to get the short end of the stick again. But yeah, that's just sort of my take, is that all this stuff is like really bad for small creators, and I don't know for medium and larger creators how it's going to shake out. I guess they have the money to go after people, but then who are they going after? Like I said, in this case, they're suggesting that they should go after the individual and not after whoever's decision it was to scrape all this content without permission. And so I find the whole thing funny. I don't know. What's your take?
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. I have a feeling that they say they're going to, indemnify, help people who are against copyright claims, but I feel like it's not quite what we think. Like some people are going to expect to be defended when Google's just going to say, no, that doesn't count for whatever reason. So the example I have is, I don't know if you heard recently, but the guy who wrote Game of Thrones, right?
Yeah.
Was it George R.R. Martin? There was another guy who apparently used ChatGPT to finish the series of Game of Thrones, writing out the whole thing in his style and the style of the original author. And I guess he released it on the internet or something, and they're not very unhappy about that. And like, where's the copyright problem here? Like, that does actually sound like the user. I feel like that's something that Google will not defend, because he specifically tried to do a copyright infringement, right? But who knows?
Yeah, but I just did whoever made the AI, did they even have permission to scrape that stuff?
Yeah, probably not.
So, I mean, there's blame to go around in that case. And I think that's like an edge case, right? That's like somebody specifically did a thing that they're probably not supposed to do with the AI. But also it sort of falls almost into like the category of fanfic in a way.
That's true. Yeah.
And I don't want to, well, I mean, I guess I do want to disincentivize people from writing fanfic using an AI, because the point of fanfic actually is that you're a fan of this thing and you have written it.
Yeah.
And there's no copyright problem there. I mean, it's, I guess, some trademark stuff, but generally the owners of IP have had a soft touch or no touch with fanfic, because it actually, if whether it's good or it's bad, it serves to like promote the original the original work, and it's often happening like inside of communities of fans. And in this case, this is, I guess just doing AI generated fanfic is a no. I think you're crossing the line there, because is the AI really a fan of the thing that you're telling it to? Is the AI really a big fan of like the X-Files or in this case, like Game of Thrones or The Ring? I think not.
Yeah.
The only exception I would make is if you had AI write like a romance novel about something that is absolutely not a romance novel, then I think that's okay, because that's funny. Like if you're like, fair enough. Like write me a romance novel about the People's Court.
Yeah.
I don't want to, but then I would not read it because of the things that Wapner would be doing, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think this is just another way that like the tech companies are in the end just trying to, they're going to screw over small creators, and yeah. It is what it is. It'll all get worked out in the courts. I just can't imagine like a small publishing house being able to, they're like, oh, we sent a cease and desist to this person because, one of our authors is, they used some, they had this written in the style of one of our authors. And then they get a reply back from the cease and desist from like a massive tech company. They're like, well, fuck.
Yeah.
The legal department, and to the extent that they have a legal department, is like, we're gonna have to let this one go, everybody.
Yeah, I think the work itself through it'll all get worked out in the courts, and we may or may not have a creative industry afterwards.
Right. Or the creative industry may just have to change dramatically, and that's, we won't have what we have now. It'll be harder for just people or like small publishing houses or small, blogs or anything like that to make money. Well,
I mean, like, what happens if any creator like actually starts getting some, interest and gaining a following, and then some AI company just copies all their stuff and copies their style and starts creating new stuff and basically steals all their following.
Right. Steals the following by basically feeding the core concepts into a computer that can spit out content faster than any human or any group of humans could ever spit out content. Yeah. You think about, you're like, oh, I'm using Stable Diffusion. Boy, is it taking a long time for this thing to render. It's like, motherfucker, how long would it take for you to draw that?
Yeah.
Like, you think about that,
exactly.
and it's amazing that it's amazing that we are where we are. I'm not happy about it, and we're not too far away from this being widely applicable to music as well.
Yeah,
we have edge cases where it already is, but the text stuff and the still picture stuff is so far advanced now that and I mean the copyright stuff is just the tip of the iceberg too. People who are new here or don't cover our other stuff don't know that, like, my other content is generally on the dystopia beat, the misinformation beat, the disinformation beat, and it's bad. It's bad enough that it's just being used to, like, trick people, right, and to fool people into believing that something happened that didn't. But on top of that, now you're gonna like screw over people who wrote a book or had a popular comic, or the music example so far. It's been only what I've heard that's been like pretty convincing has been very popular artists. But what if some indie artist has like a breakout hit, and all of a sudden, maybe they were going to be able to start their own record label, or I don't know, pay their bills for a while, and then all of a sudden this AI generated thing out there, it's in competition with them because they had something that kind of hit. Maybe it hit in the underground, or it hit in it wasn't necessarily charting, but somebody decided they were going to copy that style, and now I guess that artist is just maybe not. They're going to have a harder time monetizing, and it's all bad. It's all bad. This ain't great. This is dystopic. This is dystopic, and I don't like it. But I don't know. What are you going to do? The government's going to have to step in, but then it's going to, especially in the United States, we're going to run into just so much First Amendment stuff around it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you have a right to free speech, but nowhere is the right to the conceptual basis of your intellectual property protected. So.
Yeah.
Anyway, I guess it's my turn. Thanks for the uplifting story, Matt.
You're welcome.
So I got two stories. I got one is Ubuntu 23.10 was released, I believe it was Thursday. Also, lots of news dropped Thursday. I haven't installed it yet. I'm actually installing it tonight. It'll be my first time in a while having a computer that's running GNOME. But this is a GNOME 45 is on this, and there's also a new installer which I'm looking forward to checking out. There's a Linux kernel 6.5, which most people aren't going to notice a whole heck of a lot of difference, but we'll see. The laptop I have does have some problems with a little bit of hardware support. We'll see if that got fixed. Firefox is now running native Wayland, so you're not running like X Wayland for it. And there's just tons of other great stuff. The release notes are in the show notes. Matt, I know you use Ubuntu on a computer, but I bet you're an LTS guy. I bet you don't upgrade to the kind of mid-releases.
It's fun to use Linux, but I like computers to work, and like something I can be look at my laptop. Like, I want to make sure that it's stable enough that I can actually use it and rely on. I probably should have some other computers to play around with it on, but I don't want to upgrade too quickly.
Yeah, for the laptop, I mean, if something breaks on it, I can just nuke and pave it, so I don't care that much. For the machine that we're recording this on, clearly I'm not installing the 23.10 release of anything.
Yeah.
Like, I wait even till the .1 or the 0.2. I forget what it is. I think it's the 0.2 release that I wait for to I don't upgrade in place because the systems here are so highly customized that if you do that, you are almost guaranteed the system is not going to boot. But I mean, this is good. It seems like a lot of people in the past were complaining about Firefox specifically because it was running as a snap. And they were complaining primarily that the first time you go to launch it, it takes forever to launch. That seems to have been fixed from what I'm hearing. And so I'm just kind of excited to see it. Also, I haven't used GNOME in a while, like on a daily basis. So I'm excited to see what it looks like. All indications are that Canonical's done a really good job with like sane defaults that still look cool. So we'll see how that goes. I don't know. I will maybe I'll touch back on it next week, but maybe I won't. I do have another story, and I think maybe this one, maybe we'll end up talking a little bit more about this because this is bad news right here. This is Bandcamp laid off 50% of their employees. For people who don't know, I mean, everybody's probably been sent a Bandcamp link, but I don't think most people know how like entrenched Bandcamp is in independent music creation. Bandcamp is huge with small, medium-sized local bands and music producers of all different genres. Bands can sell or give away their music and sell merch through the site. And users can follow their favorite artists and listen basically to their music anytime they want on Bandcamp. So it sort of operates like as a streaming site, but it's not really like Spotify or whatever. You have to go choose to press play. Songtradr, that's spelled SONGTRADR because of course it is, purchased the company Bandcamp from Epic Games recently. Songtradr claims that the experience will not change. I don't know about all that. And my feeds are full of sad musicians thinking this is the end of an era, and they may very well be right.
That's worrisome. Like, yeah, if you lose 50% of your employees, it's really hard to keep the same experience. Just, ask Elon Musk and Twitter.
Right. And the thing about this is like, unlike Twitter, Bandcamp is like beloved. Like when I've interviewed artists, unless they have a label, every one of them without fail has said, oh, the best place to get my stuff is Bandcamp.
Yeah.
The thing about it that's good is that other like places don't really offer is they allow you to follow and like sign up for email updates. So if you follow, the Ruffies, for example, on Bandcamp, and they've even just put up a song, you get an email about it, and then it reminds you of the band. And there just aren't other services out there that do that, I don't think. Like there are ways in which you can do that yourself as a band, right? You have a mailing list and whatever, but you don't have the network effect of Bandcamp. And so,
yeah. And then also you have to set up all these different services to do that sort of thing.
Right. Or hire somebody to do it or whatever.
Yeah.
There are.
And indie bands are known for the tons of cash that they have to spend on stuff like hiring people to manage your social media.
Right. And people in punk rock bands are never like slackers or anything either.
Yeah.
No, I mean, this was a good service that matched up well with the community that it was serving. It's not just bands, people who are producing like dance music before they get signed to a label or whatever. That's all there too. It's just anything you want, you can find there. And I don't know anything about Songtradr, but it doesn't sound great.
Yeah.
I've long thought that something was going to come along to maybe replace Bandcamp, something maybe almost more like Tumblr in a way, where you would get a feed, not like Twitter. I definitely think it would look more like Tumblr, but I don't think the Songtradr is going to be the one to do it. I've heard rumblings in like local music, especially here in Silicon Valley, because a lot of people are techie about like maybe starting up a Mastodon instance that would, be there for people to follow you. But like nobody's on Mastodon.
There's like millions of people on Mastodon.
But I mean,
it's not the same. Yeah.
But the average music fan probably isn't on Mastodon.
No.
And the average music fan, if they're into local bands and go to local shows, they very likely have a Bandcamp login. And even if they don't, a band just redirects a URL to like their Bandcamp, and Bandcamp, they let you, they don't charge you anything. Like when you sell your merch, because you're doing all the fulfillment, right? You just put a picture of it on there, and then the person fills out a form and gives Bandcamp the money. And I don't think they charge anything but like the processing fees, because they're being charged. And I don't see that continuing. And I'm I'm hopeful that someone, Fourth Wall maybe, steps in and tries to create the same experience for bands maybe that they've created for streamers, or a similar sort of experience where it's focused on the bands, because there's not a whole lot of difference actually between the needs of like a streamer and the needs of like a local band, at least on the smaller scale. And no, this is not a paid advertisement for Fourth Wall. And yes, Fourth Wall is we are associated with them. I think we're supposed to say that. We are associated with them in that Matt and I are both wearing one or more items that we got from the Fourth Wall shop for this project. Right. But maybe it isn't going to be, maybe it wouldn't be Fourth Wall. Maybe somebody will nail it with a Mastodon instance that's like branded really well, and people kind of don't even know that they're on or maybe they don't care that they're on Mastodon because it's, they went in and adjusted all the CSS or whatever. The problem with that would be the storage though, because like all the music is stored on Bandcamp and you can buy it there and you can just go press play unless the band doesn't want you to be able to listen to it. And that's going to be hard to replace. Hopefully there's a chance this is much ado about nothing, and there's enough duplication of sort of effort here that maybe getting rid of all those employees isn't going to affect Bandcamp, because maybe this, maybe some of the same stuff is being done by this song trader, but I'm not hopeful. And also I feel like, it was a San Francisco company, and I feel bad for the people who lost their jobs, because I think the vast majority of those people probably work there because they're like interested in like local and independent music. And it was a way for them to do two things at once, that they were interested in technology, and I don't know, maybe they were a front end or a back end web designer, and they were also able to, work at a company that helps, artists monetize or helps artists promote. And I don't, where are those people going to go for like a similar kind of work experience?
Yeah.
I don't know. You ever bought any music on Bandcamp?
Nope.
Nope. I don't.
I had heard of it before. I don't really follow any indie bands, so I don't get exposed to it very much.
I feel like. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I'd heard of it, but I didn't. I don't think I've even been to it.
I feel like I probably would use it if all the local bands didn't just send me their music.
Yeah.
But I don't. But I've gone on there to, like, for example, because I do a little bit of consulting now for like mostly bands actually, and one of the first things I'll do is go look at their Bandcamp and kind of see what's going on, like even just what colors have they chosen, like what's there, what's front and center on there. And it's it's the look of the website is a little bit dated, but also like you can find exactly what you're looking for there with no bullshit. So it's real good for the bands. And I mean, bands can give out their music for free. It lets you do the pay what you want thing. There's all kinds of different stuff it does. I think one of the things that's missing, and I don't think it's hopeful that this will happen, but if I was going to like predict a good thing that I think is unlikely, maybe this new company will find ways to improve discoverability on there, or even if it's like, oh, if you like this band, you might like these other bands, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's what's happening. I think that I think it got bought by somebody, and I think whoever this song trader company is just going to leverage all these bands' intellectual property to make money for themselves, and probably screw over the bands in the process, because that's probably what's going to happen. Although that's what everybody thought Epic Games was going to do, and all things considered, most people think Epic Games was a pretty good steward of that website. So,
okay.
But that's all I got. Which one of us whose turn is it to close out this show? Is it my turn?
It is yours. I did it last time.
All right. Well, everybody, this has been How the Tech Are You? This is our weekly tech and music distribution news show, and also food coloring show. If you like this show, you can follow us on your favorite podcatcher and tell a friend about it. You can check out our website, echoplexmedia.com. You can find out all kinds of stuff about us, especially click on that support page because doing this ain't free. And I like to have money to go grocery shopping. Hit us up on Twitter. It's at eplexm, and everything else is in the show notes. Have a great tech week.